Wagwan, everybody. Welcome to our next episode of Talk the Things podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a story I seen on TikTok. It's not getting much media coverage as I think it should, but I want to talk about it. It's not even happening in Ontario. This is a case that's coming out of Saskatoon, so that's in Saskatchewan. But we're going to be talking about a person that went by the name of Alfred, and I can't pronounce his last name, so we're just going to call him Alfred. He was a 23-year-old international student from Ghana. He came to Canada in September, and he lived with his sister in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. But from what I've realized is that there's a lot of African people that live in Saskatchewan. There's a lot of Nigerians, a lot of Ghanaians. So there's a big community of them out there. So, like I said, he lived with his sister and he worked part time at like a factory. It was called DSI Underground. It was a mining company. So, those jobs pay enough. A lot of people will leave Ontario to go work in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and those places because it pays a lot of money when you work at these jobs. So, this was a good job that he was having. Even though it was part time, I'm sure it was paying enough money. But what happened this one day, right? He goes to work. His sister packs his lunch. It's an ordinary day. He goes to work. And around 8 p.m., police got called to DSI Underground with reports of a stabbing. So when they reached there, they found a 23-year-old man on the ground with stab wounds. He was suffering from the stab wounds, and they transported him to the hospital where he wound up dying. So there's a 53-year-old man that's name is Troy Francis. So he's 30 years older than Alfred. And him and Alfred must have gotten to some type of argument. The people who own the factory don't want to put out no statement about what happened. But for the events that I'm going to talk about that one I'm leading into it, it would have had to have been an argument that they were having or something went down where Troy winded up stabbing Alfred 27 times. Now, I don't know what you could have been arguing about or what could have caused you to stab a person 27 times at work. What did you even fucking use? There's bare questions that we have with this case that's not really out right now. So I want to play you guys this news clip and I'm going to come back with my final thoughts on this whole situation.
It was supposed to be a part-time job to help Alfred O'Churi pay for school. And then the police knocked at his sister's door just after midnight Monday.
The news was broken to us that he was stabbed by a co-worker to death.
O'Churi's sister is still trying to figure out what happened here at the DSI Underground plant on Monday night. She says all she knows for sure is that her brother was fatally stabbed by a co-worker. Police arrested a suspect later that same night across town. A man named Troy LeClaire, who's 30 years older than Alfred, is now charged with first-degree murder. Lydia says she can remember the exact moment when she knew her little brother was dead.
I couldn't believe it until they brought me his bags. In fact, I packed his lunch, everything, when he was leaving.
The rice, stew, fish, and meat was still in the bag.
So it clearly told me that he was the one.
Alfred O'Churi moved to Saskatoon from Ghana 4 months ago. He came on a student visa to study computer science. He stayed with his sister, who moved here 2 years ago. Lydia says he started working part-time at DSI Underground just last week. He'd taken Uber to work and then come home and study. She says other Africans also worked in the North End building. Word of the homicide spread fast in the city's tight-knit Ghanaian community. Alexander Oseawosu is a family friend who came to Canada 8 years ago. He mentors other young men like Alfred who took the same path.
So I was excited for him that I know that I was also in the same situation like him, and therefore he's also going to find his feet at the end of the day in Canada, and Canada is going to be his home. So I don't know how to describe it now. How do I convince the younger folks that it's going to work?
The man accused of killing Alfred O'Churi is back in court next week. Oseawosu says the Ghanaian community will be there in force. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
All right, you guys just heard that video. So, like I said, I had some thoughts that I was thinking about where I wanted to talk about this because I have heard that, out of Ontario, even in Ontario, we face racism. If you go up north Ontario, or 'cause we're in southern Ontario, Toronto, even though that's where a majority of the country lives, is in southern Ontario. When you go up to those other places, there's not much black people, and those white people out there, they're not too friendly. They don't really grow up seeing too much black people. Some of them do, in some urban areas of those country parts of the country, but not much of those people like black peoples. And a lot of people that I've seen that was talking about this case is saying that this was some form of racism that was happening in the workplace. Once again, we don't know exactly what it was that caused him to get stabbed 27 times, but what makes you do that? You know what I mean? You have to have, that's so personal. I do a lot of true crime, I watch a lot of true crime. There was something that you hated with this man. Now, even though he was on there in Canada for 4 months, and I believe he was working at the place for about, I think they said maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I'm not too sure about that. What could you hate so much about the man to stab him that much? You know what I mean? Like, this must be some racist ass white man. I mean, I don't want to just be saying that to say, but like, I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of crazy to hear. And I want to hear you guys' thoughts about the situation down below. Let me know your thoughts on this whole situation. Rest in peace to him. And there's a big community out there, and I hope they actually make some noise about this and put out some more stuff. If anything, we can come out and talk about it again. But for right now, that's all I have. So once again, let me know your thoughts, and we will talk next time on Talk the Things podcast.
Yeah, I'm a pretty little Barbie. Got the body of a